Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about John Kerry's absolute hypocrisy and the situation in Syria right now. Now, because of the nature of some previous work that I've done and some of the social circles I happen to know people in, I know some Arabs on kind of a social or business basis. And at one point, I lived in an apartment building where one of the neighbors was he gotten in some trouble. And what happened was the feds went after him because he was raising money to send over for the thing over there, and and so the feds put him on some kind of probation or something. But he was on an ankle bracelet, and he said, well, they confiscated a bunch of cash that I was trying to take over there, and they're busy trying to negotiate to get it back, and possibly even get CIA support for their revolution. At no point at that point in, I believe it was 2008, did they talk about actual U.S. military intervention. And I got the impression at that stage they really weren't asking for that. They were just asking for the U.S. government to tolerate it. And the idea was that if they were to overthrow the Assad regime, that whatever replacement regime would be coming in would be far less hostile to American interests than the Assad regime. And they were also talking like they would be far more tolerant than the Assad regime. Well, what we're actually seeing now is massacres of Christians. And we also have to realize that the Muslim Brotherhood, even though they're involved with overthrowing the Assad regime right now, they in the past were an integral part of the Assad regime. And at the Ba'athist movement, which was it's a political movement in the Middle East, also spread across Iraq. It was a political party which is also very supportive of Saddam Hussein's regime. They were pretty supportive of Assad and the Assad government, and at one time the Muslim Brotherhood was very much in support of that. And that had a lot to do with the Muslim Brotherhood starting the Lebanese civil war by massacring Christians. So when we look at what, for whatever reasons, the Muslim Brotherhood is not getting along with Assad, those are internal reasons, okay? I am not seeing those people suddenly deciding to become pro-American. Now, what I have gotten word back from Egypt is that a lot of those people do want peace with Americans from the standpoint that they want to be able to freely travel back and forth from the West. Now, their own countries don't have major problems giving them visas, okay? This isn't like the Soviet Union where they had a problem with being allowed out of the country. The problems usually have to do with them being allowed into the U.S. or certain types of international business deals of theirs being allowed to happen in the U.S. When some members of my family had tried to conduct a business deal with some people in Pakistan, they got ripped off. And there was no help whatsoever from the State Department. There was no help whatsoever from the Pakistani government. When they got ripped off, it was basically, I consider it part of the financial jihad. So when you talk about a lot of the Middle Eastern people who want more access to the U.S., that's kind of like Nigerians wanting better internet access, okay? We really aren't going to know whether it's simply more access to economic jihad or if these people really want to be a part of a multicultural program. We don't really have any way of knowing for certain. And what we can look at is, not just terrorism, but economic jihad. And so when John Kerry gets on here with his hypocrisy between, let's say, 2013 and 1971, he talks about whether or not we, meaning America, needs to do something about Syrian chemical weapons. We're already involved in that revolution over there. But you know what? Blowing up a chemical weapons stockpile, that's black ops. Okay, that doesn't mean that's black ops. Just shut up and do what you got to do. But if you're going to start moving major carrier groups out there and major invasion forces and major stuff, because we got to step in and solve the problems for an ungrateful people, I think you need to think otherwise about that shit. So there's a point when somebody decides we don't have enough at stake to be engaged openly in a conflict, but if somebody wants to play Black Ops games, a little bit of presidential secret unit type stuff, maybe even on some occasions the way Reagan sent the Marine Corps into Lebanon, limited deployments, which, when we're talking about a presidential expedition, a presidential commanded expeditionary force, okay, that's one thing. But apparently they're asking for a lot more here. Now, let's look at what we haven't gotten involved with. Now, this is a guy, his name's Sam Childers. He's been involved in Africa lately. Actually, he's been involved in Africa for quite a while over the Kony 2012 thing, okay? Because he's been chasing after Joseph Kony and the Lord's Resistance Army for a long time. Now, interestingly enough, Al Qaeda, which is also active in Africa, has more or less declared hands off on the entire situation. They won't mess with Sam Childers. Joseph Kony has tried to make a alliance with Al Qaeda, and the Al Qaeda people kind of just played him along a little bit, and they haven't. The Al Qaeda people just are like, yeah, okay, well, the guy's a butcher and just a sicko, and they don't really want to have a lot to do with him. But a few of the fringe of Al Qaeda has done a little bit with these guys. But everybody knows that just, the guy's a sicko. He shouldn't be running the country, and eventually he's going to get taken down. But the U.S. isn't sending, a Marine brigade to do this. And it's obvious human rights violation. It's obviously, there's a lot there. But somebody says that we're going to cut that off at Black Ops, which is kind of where Sam Childers, who's a felon, and who is, obviously involved in a lot of armed stuff, they'll kind of say you can do what you want as long as it's over there, and they'll leave him alone. They'll let it, or they'll give him a little bit of support, but it's not like somebody's going to spend billions of dollars in giving him the major support on it. So Sam Childers does his little thing, and I could see support at that level against the Assad regime on humanitarian reasons. But let's look at some other web searches, okay? Syrian rebels ask America for help, regular Google, and we're trying to figure out, okay, where is it, okay? Jerusalem Post says the Syrians are asking for help. Well, I'm seeing pictures of this, okay? I'm not seeing these guys get up and speak for themselves, okay? I really want to hear these guys speak for themselves. You show me a whole bunch of street-level people who want to make an offer that says, hey, we really need help from the United States, and we'll be friends of the United States if you help us overthrow. And let's look at all the Arab language websites, let's look at all of their things and say, if we go and we whack Assad or we wipe out those chemical weapons, they'll be cool with us. I mean, would they even make that promise? I mean, seriously, will they even make that promise? Or are they simply going through a politician who they purchased or think they have purchased, and they want him to be the voice? Okay, you know what? Guys, okay, the Syrians can open up their own YouTube channels, okay? The Chechens have, okay, the Chechens have their own public relations stuff. They do their own channels. Everybody can see this. Now, what I'm seeing here, though, is, another Arab expert says it can open a Pandora's box. I'm not seeing some major imam saying, hey, listen, we're really going to welcome American help and we'll be friends after that. I don't see those guys saying it, okay? You guys want to send me a link? I'll be fine if you want to post a response video that shows me a truly recognized leader in the Syrian revolutionary government, truly recognized leaders who would say they would be very friendly toward America if we spend the millions and millions of dollars on helping them out. Okay? I mean, if we spend the millions and millions of dollars on helping them out, what are they going to do for us? And what are they going to tell us? Not if they gave like maybe a couple $100,000 to John Kerry. Okay, you know, John Kerry is you know, to use John Kerry as your in on influencing what the U.S. military is going to do is highly unethical. Okay, John Kerry is the type of guy that when he shows up at a military base, they take the fucking ammo from people. Okay, if John Kerry is going to be your fucking voice for military intervention on and telling U.S. troops what to do, you got to realize who you're using. Okay, this guy, they take the ammo from the troops when he shows up at a base. Nobody, I mean, nobody I know likes him. Okay, even if they support some of the same policies he supports from time to time, this is a guy who literally has to worry about getting shot when he goes onto a U.S. military base. So when somebody says, and I'm seeing this stuff, you know, Al Qaeda thrives when they do make their own videos and announcements. What little I'm finding is that they have a lot to say about. They're going to have a lot to say about whether or not they are being controlled by the U.S. because among their Arab audience, a whole bunch of their Arab audience, a whole bunch of their commentary, and we like to get down in here and we look at their comments, okay? You start getting, you know, we really want to look at the actual Arabic response to these things and their own comments. And they're all going to talk about how they don't want to be controlled by the U.S., how they're not bowing to the U.S., how they hate the U.S. I mean, come on, man. Now, when we look at 9/11, okay, look, Syrian rebels, a quick walk for this. This is kind of a good video. You know, they'll let journalists in, they'll do that kind of stuff. Let's look at the comments, okay? Now, here they're talking about how the U.S., you know, we see this stuff. I can't translate this, okay? The thing is they probably get all their AKs and all that shit locally, okay? But we're just not, you know, what are we going to get out of these guys? And I'm not trying to be an asshole about it, but, you know, the U.S. didn't try very hard to liberate Eastern Europe from communist repression during the 50s and 60s either. Okay? There was no major effort to liberate Eastern Europe. None. Okay? What there was a threat to obliterate the whole fucking place with nuclear weapons, but there wasn't any major assistance to foment revolution over there. By the late 80s, early 90s, all those revolutions had to be homespun. And the most we ever got was some CIA support with very limited funding, very limited resources, just so that they could take credit for saying, yeah, we helped support the revolutions in Eastern Europe. Believe me, folks, it was not major support. It wasn't huge. It wasn't even equal to what the tax base is that was provided by Eastern European immigrants and refugees in the United States. I can tell you that right now. So to spend millions and billions of dollars to assist these people, show me somehow, some way, where they will talk and be pro-American, if we go and we help them out. I mean, show me. I'm not seeing it. Anyway, I'm willing to discuss this further. I don't want the video to be too long, but I'm open to hearing from somebody else on this type of stuff, because I'm just not seeing it. What I'm seeing is a safe haven for a larger safe haven for Al Qaeda being put into action here. If Kerry or somebody has some kind of a problem with the chemical weapons still being there, then that's Black Ops stuff, man. That's Black Ops stuff. Get it done. We don't want to hear about it. If the Israelis want to go and handle it, that's Israeli action. That's the Israelis. That's it. Okay.